The office building on Franklin Street had a dark history. For decades, it had been the site of mysterious disappearances, strange noises, and eerie sightings. Employees at the nearby businesses avoided the place, whispering tales of hauntings that drove chills down their spines. But one man, Thomas, was unfazed by the stories. He needed a space to set up his new graphic design studio, and the rent for the old office was too tempting to resist. Thomas was a pragmatic man, a believer in the tangible and the scientific. Ghost stories and superstitions held no power over him. The office had character, he thought, and the inexplicable rumors surrounding it only made it more affordable. His friends, however, were less enthused and even staged an impromptu exorcism on his first day, which he laughed off. Over the next few weeks, Thomas worked tirelessly to set up his studio. He designed logos, websites, and marketing materials, ignoring the occasional odd noises or flickering lights. Late one evening, as he was deep in a creative trance, his computer screen went blank. Frustrated, he checked the power cord, but it was plugged in. Just then, he heard a voice, a whisper so faint it was almost inaudible. "Help me." Startled, Thomas looked around the dim office, but found no one. He figured he'd been working too hard and was hearing things. He shrugged it off and resumed his work, the voice a distant memory. As days passed, strange occurrences became more frequent. Files vanished only to reappear in odd places, lights flickered violently, and the temperature in the office seemed to drop for no apparent reason. Thomas remained steadfast, attributing these oddities to an old building's quirk. One evening, as he worked on a client's project, a chilling breeze swept through the room even though all the windows were closed. Goosebumps formed on his skin as he felt a presence behind him. He turned slowly, expecting to find a window ajar. Instead, he saw a shadowy figure. The figure was that of a woman, her face obscured by long, dark hair. She was dressed in a tattered, blood-stained white gown. Thomas gasped and jumped from his chair, but when he blinked, she was doubt and fear crept into his mind. Could the legends be true? Had he really seen a ghost? Shivers ran down his spine as he realized the haunting tales might hold some truth. Intrigued and frightened in equal measure, Thomas decided to do some research on the history of the building. What he discovered sent a chill through his bones. The office had once been a hospital, and one of its patients, a young woman, had mysteriously disappeared under suspicious circumstances. The patient's description matched the ghostly figure he had seen. Driven by curiosity and an odd sense of responsibility, Thomas delved deeper into the office's history. He discovered old medical records, journal entries, and letters, all of which hinted at dark secrets hidden within the building's walls. It seemed the hospital had been plagued by inexplicable phenomena, and the missing patient story was but one of many. One evening, as Thomas was digging through old documents, he found a letter that stopped his heart. It was from the missing patient herself, addressed to her family. In it, she detailed her experiences in the hospital where she had been subjected to cruel and inhumane treatments. She spoke of whispers in the walls and the constant feeling of being watched. As he read, the office around him seemed to come alive. The lights flickered, and a chorus of ghostly voices whispered, "Help." Thomas was no longer a skeptic. He was an unwitting medium, a conduit for the spirits who had longed to tell their stories. The haunted history of the office unfolded before him, a dark narrative of pain, suffering, and restless souls. Determined to bring closure to the tormented spirits, Thomas enlisted the help of a paranormal investigator. Together, they conducted a seance, attempting to communicate with the ghosts that had plagued the office for years. During the session, the investigator established contact with the spirits, and one by one, they shared their tales of anguish and betrayal. As the seance concluded, a feeling of peace descended upon the room. The spirits had finally been heard, and they seemed to dissipate into the ether, their presence no longer haunting the office. Thomas, exhausted but satisfied, watched as the investigator packed up. The next day, the office was eerily quiet, but the air felt different. It was as though the weight of history had been lifted. Thomas had brought resolution to the restless souls, and he knew that he could now work in peace. With a newfound respect for the unexplained, Thomas continued his graphic design work in the once haunted office. It had become a sanctuary, no longer plagued by the ghostly apparitions and unsettling occurrences. The twist, however, came when he discovered an old photograph in one of the documents, a picture of a young woman who bore an uncanny resemblance to the spirit he had seen. It was then that Thomas realized the young woman's story had come full circle. The letter he had found, the saints, and the release of the spirits had all been part of a plan, a series of events set in motion to bring closure to the haunted office. The twist was that the young woman's spirit had orchestrated it all, guiding Thomas to reveal the dark history of the building and release the trapped souls. With a sense of gratitude and respect, Thomas continued to work in the office, now at peace with the spirits that had once haunted it. The twist was that the ghosts, far from being malevolent, had been seeking resolution all along, and they had found their way through the unlikeliest of mediums. Thomas himself